Please welcome Developer Programs Engineer, Daniel Wolff Dobson.
Hello, everybody. We're going to talk about building Google Hangout apps. That is the largest QR code in the world. I'm a developer programs engineer. You're welcome to try to scan this. The thing that's really cool about this is it's got a G+ in it, you see. Oh, so nice. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Today we're going to talk about Hangouts apps. We're going to talk about how to build and deploy Hangouts apps. We're going to talk about key concepts to understand the API. We're going to talk in focus about the API, and we're going to talk about some advanced topics about latency. We'll also try to get a couple of demos in. I love Hangouts. Hangouts are really fun. Even without Hangout apps, there's all kinds of interesting new things that are happening in Hangout apps. Not all of you are going to know who Felicia Day is, but she is an American actress who's known for Buffy the Vampire Slayer and a few other things. And she did a thing called Hangouts House Calls. So what she did is she said, at 3 p.m., I'm going to make a post. Anybody who follows that post up with a link to a Hangout, I will join it. And she joined 400 Hangouts in about 3 hours. And she stopped, she posted her pictures, she did the whole thing. It was really fun, and it was really sweet. And it's a brand new thing that people are doing with this technology. But we're here to talk about Hangouts apps, not just Hangouts themselves. And Hangout apps are about sharing activities. They're about bringing people together to all focus on something at the same time, in real time. We've released 2 Hangout apps so far, Google has. One of them is the YouTube gadget, if anybody you've tried that. If you go to a YouTube page, you can click on watch this in a Hangout, and you'll be able to watch this together with a bunch of other people, and we stay in sync wherever you are using the shared data API. It's very neat. The other thing we have done is Google Apps in a Hangout. And that's taking Google's productivity apps and putting them in an iframe inside your Hangout. It's brought a lot of people together. We use it all the time at Google. It's really neat. But you guys are all developers. That's why you came to Developer Day. And so I'm going to tell you how you can build your apps, because I don't think those 2 apps by any means cover all of the possible things that you can do with Hangout apps. And we'd really like to see what you can do. So what's a Hangout app? Hangout app is basically an iframe. It's an iframe where you get to put your own code inside it. You build it using XML. You build it with HTML, CSS, all of the web standard tools that you've come to know and love, and in some cases curse. You define them using XML, and we also give you a bunch of APIs that allow you to allow your app to know it's inside a Hangout and know what's going on and help you keep it all together. So this is a Hangout app right here. It's just some XML. We have a module statement. If you've ever programmed, and not all of you have by any means, programmed for iGoogle or some of the other gadget-based things, this is what it is. It's a gadget. You have a module, you have some sort of required features. We don't have very many. And then we have a CData section. And the CData section contains one JavaScript required thing, and then after that, it's standard HTML. In return for doing that, your HTML gets stuck in what we call a gadget right here. Right in the middle of the Hangout. And inside that is standard HTML in an iframe. So how do you deploy an app? Right now, Hangouts API is in developer preview. That means that we want you to try it out, but we're not quite ready for production yet. What you need to do is go to code.google.com, go to your API console, create a project, turn on the service, and give a URL to your XML file that you wrote. The XML file is, needs to be outside of a firewall. We'll talk about that in a second. So this is what the developer console looks like. This right here is the really important slider that you have to make sure you flip. If this is a really big screen. If you, see, I'm emphasizing it. If you do that, you get another Hangout slot over here. The Hangout slot then allows you to type in the XML. We recommend using HTTPS because everything else is served in HTTPS. If you don't, you're going to get mixed content warnings and everybody's going to be sad. Also, this has to be outside a firewall because we want, it has to be visible. Now, what you do, well, get to that in a second. When you click enter a Hangout there, it will actually just traverse to Hangouts API, TalkGadget, Google.com, Hangouts, GID, and that's your gadget ID. And at that point, it will expand out into a full URL, which contains an ID for your Hangout itself. If you want other people to join you, in developer preview only, it's not going to show up on your stream as a joinable Hangout. You're going to, you just have to send that to anybody else who wants to be there. Anybody who wants to join your Hangout has to be on the teams list. Back over there, it says team. You're going to have to enter their name there. Again, we're not ready for production, but we want you to try this out because we're so excited about it. So, key concepts about the API. When you include that standard Hangout.js, we give you a bunch of cool features. We give you awareness of the Hangout itself. We get participants. We get shared data. You get some AV stuff, audio-visual. You get a little bit about the Hangout layout and a little bit about the Hangout, itself. We've set this all up just like it's just in JavaScript. It's going to be asynchronous callbacks. So every time somebody shows up or leaves, you're going to get a callback. Every time somebody changes something inside the environment, you're going to get a callback. But because we know that sometimes you just do synchronous things, we also have getters and setters that contain all the cache data that's been sent to you from the callbacks. It's very easy to use. We have it all documented on our website. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to show you a demo here. And this is not nearly as exciting as the demo that I showed at the... How many of you guys were at the keynote? Like, is everybody at the keynote? Is there somebody who wasn't at the keynote? Okay, so you've seen my robots. This is not nearly as cool as the robots. But the robots are a lot more fun, there's no question. Speaking of Hangout bots, we're going to go to... So I'm going to enter this Hangout. And you go to the green room, you get the red line that says that we're in, that we're in developer preview. And there's your app. Whenever I click on this button, this is how exciting this app is. When I click on this button, it counts up. If there were other people in this Hangout with me, they would also be able to count up with me. Exciting stuff. We also get, you can reset it, obviously, and set it back to 0. We can also go and collect the information from an external server. So I have Wolff.com. I can go get a message from it, and it sends a message. This is all very standard HTML stuff, except that we're in a Hangout, and we're sharing this one piece of shared data, which is the count, with everybody. That's pretty much this whole app. This is a sample app that you can download, so you can take a look at the insides. We're going to look at the insides ourselves right now by coming back to my slides. So what's inside that CData section in that simple starter app? We get, obviously at the top, there we include Hangouts.js. We also include a JavaScript file that's on Wolff.com. That's where most of the action is going to be. After that, it's all HTML that just defines where the buttons are and everything. Because your gadget has to be visible without a firewall and without a password, it's sometimes useful to then host your JavaScript that contains all of your actual logic for your program on some local machine, and then the browser will pull that in live, which means that you will be able to keep your secret, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, you can ask me about it in office hours. So this is the code for the first section where you were counting up. When you click on the count button or on the click me button, you get count button click. When you click reset, you say reset button click. We go into this. Here's where we're actually calling the API. We're calling get state, and then we're calling submit delta, which changes the shared state. Get state returns a JavaScript object that is keys and values. The keys are all strings. The values are all strings. We don't allow you to store anything else. We let you store up to about 10K worth of data. That's about it. That 10K should be enough for everybody, as Bill Gates once said. No, wait. Then we also have submit delta. Submit delta allows you to modify this. You can either add new keys or you can modify old ones. You can also remove keys if you want. And when we click reset, we obviously set it down to 0. This is really easy stuff. How does a shared state work? It works pretty much like you would imagine. When I call submit delta, if I and Julia are in the same Hangout, when I call submit delta, it bounces a message up to the Hangout server, and data comes back down and tells both of us that the shared state is changed. If you've ever done shared virtual machine stuff, you will know that that oftentimes you want to submit the delta and then wait for the return trip to actually change what's going on to keep everybody as close to in sync as possible. These are the callbacks. We have these arrows. These are the callbacks that are going to happen. The callbacks for state updated goes and rewrites the HTML, and for whenever the number of participants changes, it goes and rewrites that. Again, very, very simple stuff. You also have to register those callbacks. This is a really standard piece of code that you'll find in all of our samples, and we want you to attach. Basically, we don't want you to attach any of the listeners until after the API is fully loaded, which is why we say we create a load handler, call init when the gadget is ready, and then from there we attach the listeners. For the other side, the hello world, this is one of these things about gadgets that's important. So when you're building a gadget, we're allowing you to put an iframe on something that was served from Google. Now, we can't just have any old iframe, because if we just allow you to put arbitrary code, you're going to get a lot of cross-site scripting attacks, or just mistakes. You're going to end up overwriting other people's JavaScript or something else. It's terrible. So we're going to give you an iframe. And furthermore, we're going to go and get this XML spec that you made, and we're actually going to cache it on our servers. So it's going to be cached on Google. So whenever you actually go to your go and look at that iframe, you open up Chrome and you look inside. That iframe is actually hosted at something.googleusercontent.com. So your app is not running where you think it is, and that's an important lesson when you're first working with gadgets. It's good in the long run, but it does mean that in this case, when we wanted to go to get a message from Wolff.com, we couldn't just call locally. We actually had to go and make an HTTP request. We're using a library here called easyxdm.net. You can download it. We don't recommend it in particular versus anything else. But nonetheless, the important point to remember is your gadget is not hosted on your machine. It's hosted on our machine. You can still call back to your machine, but you have to be special about it. So at this point, we're going to go back, and I want to show you Hangout bots again, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what's going on there. So let me fire up Hangout bots again. So here we have Hangout bots 4. We've had a lot of revisions of the poor Hangout bot party. I'm going to enter the Hangout bots party, and I'm going to hang out, and then I'm going to have Julia join me again, but that means I have to go chat her. So I'm going to chat her and say, there you go, and hopefully she'll stop by. I wrote this in Flash. Partially I wrote this because I'm an old game developer, and so I know Flash. And part of it is because, whoa, Julia's here. Hi.
Hi.
I'm nattering on about Flash for a second, but then we'll get together. We also did this in Flash because we know there are a lot of game developers who work in Flash and they're interested in Hangouts. So I was exploring and trying to figure out what problems you guys are going to have. So this is actually a Flash frame inside the iframe. Whoops, we got to get a little smaller still. Oops, Flash took my keyboard focus. There we go. Hey, Julia, you want to join me?
I would love to. I think I'm going to be
no, I'm on the staging. I disappeared. Let's try that again. Haha, there we are. Hi, I'm back. Okay. So what we're showing here first is participant awareness. There are, or not awareness. There's only one of me. Ah, there she is. We're showing participant awareness. When she activated the app and joined it, then there was a participant callback, and then I was able to add a new robot. We're actually both running our own individual copies of this Flash SWIF, but we're updating it in synchronous to stay together. Another thing that I showed briefly in the keynote was the audio callbacks. Every time the volume level changes on a given microphone, we send you a single callback saying, now the volume level is this. That allows me to do these sort of cute head animations and a few other things. And when Julia talks, say some stuff, Julia.
When I talk, my head also goes.
Then both of us, we're actually getting individual events that are tagged to individual Hangout IDs, so we can tell apart these things. We also have the, shared state. Now remember, we were talking about the shared state and submit delta and so forth. If you actually look closely at this, and as I mentioned before, this is a really big screen, so you should be able to read this. For instance, if I go and grab myself a beer, you can actually see where it says on line 15 there, where it says item equals null. That's the key that I'm storing it all in is the Hangout ID, and the Hangout ID is this big, long Hangout, blah, 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 ephemeral ID, google.com, something or other. That's my ID as my instance of this person inside a Hangout. Julia has a different one. Hers is COE347BO. The important thing is that we have different ones and we can tell each other apart. So we have the key is her, or in this case, my Hangout ID, and then the value is a stringified JSON value, which just tells all the important things. What kind of hat I'm wearing, I don't have a hat on, what color I am, where location I am, what I'm going to do when I stop moving, my location, and also what kind of item I'm holding. So you can see right now I'm holding item beer. Whoops, eek, come back. And if I drink, it's going to revert to item null. So that's what we're doing. We're basically doing these shared states, and that's keeping all of these shared visualizations together. So that's pretty much it. I probably don't need to, oh, why not? Yay, cherry blossoms. Okay, that's enough. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
So again, we were listening for a participant update, and when she disappeared, we were able to add the smoke puff. All right, that's enough of this. Let's go back to the slides. So as I said, Hangout Bots demonstrates the AV values, which is the volume. It demonstrates participant watching, and it also demonstrates the shared state, and also embedded Flash. If you want to be cool, you're going to use HTML5. Go for it. I recommend it. So what do you actually get when these participants? Well, you have participant ID. You get participant by ID. So get participant ID is find out what your Hangout ID is. Get participant by ID allows you to look up and you get a participant data structure back. You also get add participant listener. You can also listen to when participants change. What's that data structure? Data structure is actually your Hangout ID. Whether or not you're actually running the app. It also gives you your G+ ID. So if any of you have gone to or are going to Julia's talk on the G+ APIs, you can actually make all of those RESTful calls. So you can look up contacts, you can look up comments, you can look up personal ID. It's pretty neat, and you don't need to do authentication because it's all public data. It also gives you a display name, and it also gives a URL to your profile picture. That's how I was able to put, I don't know where my badge went. That's my symbol, is that little green alien. That's how I was able to put that on top of my guy. We also get the shared state calls that we're talking about. You get state, you get submit delta, listen for the state change listener. The state change listener actually returns new keys, keys that are being removed, the complete state, and you can even request extra metadata about that. You can look that up in the API. And you can remember what we were talking about before there. With the AV stuff, you get status of hardware components, so you can find out, do they have a microphone? Do they have a camera? Is the camera turned on? Is the microphone turned on? You can also check, what else can you do? Oh, yes, you can do the volume level thing like I did to make the heads go up and down. You can also use set avatar. Set avatar allows you to overlay any image you want over the video stream. So in one of our very early demos of this, we actually replaced everybody's heads in the film strip. It's what we call that strip along the bottom of all the people's video streams. We actually replaced that with androids from the Android phone, and then we had the heads going up and down all as everyone was talking. It's a lot of fun. It can also be transparent. For a quiz game we were working on, we overlaid numbers or whether or not they got the answer correct. We have a little bit of data on layout. If people have been using Hangouts with extras, and if you haven't, I recommend that you do. If you use Hangouts with extras, you'll see that we actually have a vertical layout there, while on the Hangouts API stuff, we have a horizontal layout. This is something we'd like to hear about from you. What kinds of apps do you want to build? What kinds of layouts do you need to make those apps happen? We'd love to hear about what you're doing. But right now, all you can really tell is whether or not the chat pane is visible and whether or not, and some stuff about highlighting. Also some metadata, whether or not the person is logging in from Japan or logging in from the United States. Who's the active speaker, who's making the most noise right now. Last thing I want to talk about, and I'm going through this really fast, is latency So whenever you make the shared data state takes between 200 and 300 milliseconds. 200 milliseconds is pretty good. It can go as high as 300 milliseconds when the participants are very far from each other. This is something you guys can find out yourself by tracking how long it takes for these pings to go back and forth, and you can come up with a more definitive answer than that. The other thing is that all the shared state data is visible to everyone. Now, in a game like Hangout Bots, obviously it's not a big deal because there isn't any hidden information in this, so it's not a big deal if anybody can find out things about each other. Likewise, those robots don't walk very fast and they don't really conflict with each other. So it's not a big deal that that the latency is fairly high. Not hugely high, but high enough that we could run into each other if we're both trying to do the same thing. On the other hand, if you have a really big party going on, or these are all the people from, these are all your developer relations people in Mountain View on Google+. If we're having a big party, or we have an app like Call of Duty or Quake or something like that, then you're going to want lower pings. A game like Call of Duty is going to be like 90 millisecond pings, 100 millisecond pings. That's not going to be what you want to use shared state. So if you're making like a Pong game, you don't want to send 30 frames a second. You don't want to use set state for that. That's going to be the wrong tool. Set state is great for bringing people together and keeping them coordinated, but if you need fast response, you might want to build your own server. Obviously, with private data, one of the first things I tried to do was make a poker game. This ran into problems when I realized that, of course, everybody I work with uses Chrome, so they would just open the debugger and put a breakpoint in, and every time the cards changed, they would just look at everybody's hand. It didn't work very well. So that's another case in which you're going to want to have your own server. And that brings me, slightly early, to the end of my talk, which is, of all the APIs that we show you here today, I think Hangouts is really the neatest. And we've had video conferencing before. We've had video conferencing before. We've had sort of shared apps before. But we've never in the world had a 10-way, free, high-quality video thing with room for some kind of shared app in the middle of it. You know, we've put Google Apps in it, and we put YouTube in it, but that's just the surface of this. I really think somewhere out there is an idea that is going to be huge. This is a new way of communicating with each other. With Felicia Day, she already found a new way to communicate with her fans with the Hangout house calls. And like I said, that's just the beginning. And I think you guys are going to be the people who can figure that out, figure out what the next thing is, and either make a ton of money or touch a lot of people's lives, and if you're lucky, both. So it's a wide open space. There's all kinds of places that you can, things that you can do. Education, we're already getting people who are using education a lot. They're using the Google Apps to show slides, but there's a lot of app stuff that you can do much beyond that, figuring out who the teacher is, that sort of thing. We also have medicine, is a fascinating topic. We have games. I'm an old game developer, so I love this idea. One of the things I think about games is that the games that are head-to-head, like poker, as I were playing with it, at least in my opinion, it didn't work very well. It didn't work very well because the first thing you want to do when you're playing poker is hide your emotions. So everybody tilts the camera away from themselves so they don't see their faces. So I think the kinds of games that are going to be, and you guys should prove me wrong, I think the kinds of games that are going to be really fun are ones where everybody collaborates together and tries to solve a problem. At that point, the face-to-face communication and people's emotions are going to matter a lot. Sciences, architecture, music is going to be really cool. You all saw the fascinating demo on the Hangouts with the beatboxing and all the rest of that stuff. This is another case where I think Hangouts can be really neat together because we have all this great audio and we have all this great great video. Put that all together, you got something really cool. And I'm really early, but we'll wrap up anyway. The developers.google.com/plus, that's where you can find us. We have places where you can post questions. I am the person who will answer your Hangout technical questions, so feel free to post there. Hangouts during office hours, we actually do that now once a week or once every other week. The Google Plus team will get together and throw office hours in a Hangout. And if you go to our webpage, you can actually see when the next ones are, and you can sign up for them and all that stuff. We're working on getting them to happen at a time that's more convenient for Asia than it is for North America. But we'd love to see you guys there. We'd love to hear your questions. We'd love to answer them. And whatever you're working on, we'd love to see it. You can send me email down there at wolff@google.com. The lggwg.com/plus is a link to my Plus page profile. Feel free to friend me, or I said it. Feel free to follow me, and we'll share a post with me and tell me what you're working on. I think we're a little early, but I think I'm going to wrap it up because I don't want to take too much of your time. I'm going to go do office hours outside. You're absolutely welcome to come and tell me what you want to build. Ask me questions about the Hangouts APIs, whatever you want to know. And I think I'm going to end there. Thank you very much.
以上でセッションを終了させていただきます。